You think you know how bad things are, but you don't know. You don't know how bad things are. Wanna know how bad it is? You wanna know how absolutely horrible the state of masculinity is? Well, the Center for Social Justice is calling for a masculinity reset in which male and female qualities are treated positively and equally. The organization, the ideology, the side of politics that has spent the last 3 decades, 30 plus years, savagely beating, kicking and stabbing masculinity and men in general has finally looked down upon the mangled corpse at their feet and thought, that's a bit much. Oh my god. And yeah, it is actually that bad. The numbers of males aged 16 to 24 who are not in education, employment, or training increased by 40% compared to 7% of females since the pandemic. The gender wage gap is now going in the opposite direction, and that is but the tip of the iceberg here. So, men portrayed as either frightening or pathetic in film and TV. Calls for a masculine reset to provide boys with positive role models in popular culture. And hey, what positive role models even are there in popular culture right now? Are there any from this literally century? Or must we all look back to the 1900s to find masculine male role models? Because I think we actually do. In the last 20 odd years, how many have we produced? I mean, one of the few tales of fatherhood that I can recall from the last few years would probably be Avatar 2, and the only reason why they could create Jake Sully as a sort of kind of positive father figure was to make him a blue cat alien. And they bring up adolescence here, of course, as well, as indeed, men are either supposed to be the villains, dangerous or frightening, or they are supposed to be pathetic stepping stones for the girl boss of the season. Comedic relief, the idiot tard burglar who constantly gets in the way of the heroic female adventurer. Men are being portrayed negatively in popular culture as either pathetic or frightening, most people believe. A poll of more than 2,000 people found that most believe that films, television, and adverts are failing to provide boys with proper role models, such as a strong, silent, but kindly hero of previous generations. Instead, those questions says men are presented as either hapless, ineffectual people characterized by Daddy Pig from Peppa Pig, Homer Simpson and Family Guy's Peter Griffin, or monsters figures such as Jamie Dornan's serial killer Paul Spector in The Fall. The study by Center for Social Justice calls for a masculine reset, which male and female qualities are treated positively and equally by the mass media. What is there to be said? Now, to be fair here, the Centre for Social Justice in this case is a British organisation. The Centre for Social Justice is an independent award-winning organisation that puts social justice at the heart of British politics. This was a conservative, very heavy quotation mark organisation from back in 2004, when the conservative wing of politics was capitulating to the left even faster than they are now, and were constantly attempting to, in essence, outflank the progressives from the left, and failing miserably to do so again and again and again and again. But from its position as centre-right, oh, now there's a joke, they have produced the report Lost Boys. A State of the Nation report revealed the crisis facing boys and young men in Britain. It is publication sent shockwave through the UK, punctuated by Sir Gareth Southgate's Dimbley lecture and the release of Netflix series Adolescence. And yes, that is absolutely true. One of the points that Adolescence did bring up, which I talked about extensively in my video on it, is how we no longer have a functional definition for a man, for a male role model figure for young boys. And thus the main character in Adolescence becomes clearly twisted because he has no functional concept of what it is to be a man. He doesn't know. The closest he's got is family members, which he then tries to kind of sort of imitate, but without any actual understanding of the depth of it. All he knows is, well, my dad is a man and he does these certain things. And even then, the show itself even attempts to focus in on blaming the dad every single point throughout the show, both via the psychiatrist going, "Was your dad ever violent? Did your dad ever shout?" etc. And even the final scene where the dad is crying has him go like, "What did I do wrong? I failed him." And the mother goes in and goes like, "Oh, no, you know, you didn't fail him. We didn't do anything wrong." Because at not at any point during the entire series does the mother even take up an iota of responsibility. It is all the father and the young boy. And of course, Adolescence was a made-up story based on a New Britain stabbing. But oh well, details. It nevertheless captures a real problem in society. The CJ has argued the generation of young men are facing far worse outcomes than young women in education and beyond, for failing further behind by virtually every yardstick, while changing social attitudes leave them feeling isolated. Absolutely. We know now that boys and men are failing more often in schools than women, largely because of all of the affirmative action programs available to women and girls. We have specially created governmental programs that are gender segregated these days. In fact, just like last week on Norwegian television, so not Britain, but you get to the drift, we had an announcement on the news that there was a special program to open for women and girls in tech, specifically in the computer sciences, etc., only available to women and girls. We have special mortgages for women and girls. We have special loans for women and girls to get into investing, to become creators of companies. We have created so many special rules that advantage women over men due to them being exclusive to their gender, that of course men are beginning to feel lost and left out. They're supposed to be the protectors, the caregivers, the providers. And what can they provide in the modern world, in the modern economy? Can they buy a house before they're 30? Odds are not, and even then, they're going to have to take up a mortgage that will hold them down with debt for the next 30, if they're lucky, years, if not 40 or 50, or eternal debt slavery. Not to mention, of course, also the ever-present problem of the standards of women having, well, come up with the idea that every man should somehow be 30 years into his career by the time that he's 18. The phenomenon was highlighted by Adolescence, the award-winning drama that told the story of Jamie, a 13-year-old boy whose fall into online misogynist world of the so-called manosphere led to the violent murder of a girl. That is actually also not correct, however. Again, as I talked about in length on my video on it, there is virtually nothing about the manosphere in Jamie's life. There is a brief, vague mention of Andrew Tate, and that's it. The reason why Jamie committed the crime was because he was getting fucking bullied by the girl, actively and maliciously so, because he apparently liked her. She rejected him and then mocked him in school in front of everybody. This wasn't so much a misogynist crime as it was a crime of victimhood. Again, one of those things that is fascinating, they could write a show like this and apparently everyone manages to get away the wrong message of it, but oh well. The poll found that 57% actually, of people felt that media tend to portray men at extremes as either wimpy or excessively masculine, more than double the 25% who disagree with that proposition. So there's only a fourth of people who think that men aren't portrayed negatively in entertainment. And personally, I would love to know the shows those people watch, because I sure as hell don't see them. A similar 57% said that male role models in popular culture were less masculine than those in past generations. 2/3, 66%, said that boys lack proper role models across popular culture. Of course. I mean, what were the role models of my generation? Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, Jean-Claude Van Damme. We had entire generations of action heroes, of masculine men doing what's right, going on heroic journeys to right great wrongs and get the girl in the end. What do we even have today that even vaguely resembles that? I mean, what are our action heroes now? Well, best case scenario, you've got a twinkish Spider-Man. Maybe you've got some Marvel heroes dimpled in there occasionally. We had a brooding Batman like 10-20 years ago and a constantly failing Superman. Are these our male masculine power models? And to begin with as well, they're superheroes. When asked an open-ended question about which characteristics they would enjoy seeing in male characters of film or TV, 57% said honesty, respect, and family values. Another thing that's been under siege for the last few decades. Substantially higher than any other attribute, because these are the classical male things. Basically, what people are asking for is the classic virtues of the medieval man, the knight. Honor, honesty, respect, virtue, family. They basically want historical classics, which are also, I point out, a fucking dead genre, and when it is briefly resurrected, you usually get female black jarls in the mix as well. David Gandy, one of the world's most successful male models, said, "I noticed when my daughter started watching Peppa Pig how the father is treated as a bungling fool who gets it wrong while the mum gets everything right. I like to empower my girls and teach them about powerful women and what they have achieved, but men are just as important and we have to shout about what's being achieved by them too." Well, therein lies the point. The entire idea of empowering women is the problem here. We have now had multiple generations of empowering women specifically, not empowering people, not empowering children, not empowering people in schools young. It is women specifically. Again, as we see reflected in society. Hell, up until a few years ago in Norway, you were given extra points to get into the study of your choice in school because you were female. Men would have to score literally higher on every single test in order to merely simply be comparable to a woman in education in several different branches. Baroness Nikki Morgan, the former cultural secretary and now chair of Advertising Standards Authority, said, "If people only ever heard about misogyny, sexual assaults, and violence by men towards women, no doubt it's going to affect how boys are seen." Well, not even that. That has already been determined. That is already the norm. Misogyny, sexual assault, and violence by men towards women. We don't have any other stories. In what stories do we have misandry? Huh? How frankly do you see that on television? How often do we see sexual assault of women against men? Can you even bring up an example of that? And violence by women towards men? Well, if anything, it's going to be the 50 pounds woman beating up 200-pound muscle-bound gorilla men in some bullshit action movie. This isn't merely a problem of this being too focused on, it is that there is no opposite to this. Our problem isn't simply that we lack a focus on men, it is that the focus is exclusively on the female characters. How people are portrayed in media undoubtedly shapes society's view of them. The challenge has been getting online platforms to accept they are publishers with responsibility for content in a way that TV, radio, cinema, newspaper, magazines accepted decades ago. No! No, 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 no. This is the reason why we have this problem to fucking begin with. When you allowed nature to simply take its course, the goal was to create good entertainment, good television, good movies, etc. And in so doing, you had natural diversity, natural, strong and intriguing female characters coming to the fore. We had all of this in the past, but then you stepped in and decided that there needed to be a social responsibility for these things. No, let the market do what the market does. Your top-down idiot control over this is why we have this, because you always oversteer. If we were to even accept the idea here, okay, men and boys need more representation, this is now a social responsibility, well, how do we know where the social responsibility ends? There is no metric inherent, is this? There's no goalpost that we can reach. It will only keep going until we arrive at the exact same point that we are at now, but in reverse, and then we'll be equally horrified then. Ugh. Neil Brand, a playwright, composer of film scores and radio for film critics, said there is a sense that men and boys are growing up within a society that is disempowering them. I think cinema has led this charge, even if it's only reflecting what society is doing. And again, there's the thing. Cinema, no. It's not about cinema. It is a part of it, absolutely, but it's not that. This isn't made up. This isn't imaginary. Men and boys aren't getting bummed out on this because they think they are being disadvantaged. They are being disadvantaged. Observably, economically, educationally, societally so. Feminism and the Me Too movement of the past 20 or 30 years have been incredibly important and necessary. Have they? What it has meant is that less able and less socially responsible writers and filmmakers have gone for the obvious story. If you talk about women being empowered, which is that the men have to lose that power and that the balance can't be struck between the two. Somehow or other, it requires shitty men for women to be shown to achieving what they should be achieving. And again, not the case. In fact, I was intrigued, so I found an interesting list here. The top 50 greatest female TV characters of the 21st century. Bossed it. But, okay, we have like Kamala Khan on this list. Never mind whether or not there is anybody out there who likes Kamala Khan. Is there anyone even out there who can tolerate Kamala Khan? But who's the top character on this list, one might wonder. Who's the best female character? Well, it's Buffy. Buffy is pretty much the exact opposite of everything that is in modern entertainment. She is not a girl boss. Despite her powers, despite her superhuman strength and ability to kill demons and vampires, etc., Buffy fucks up constantly. Buffy fails constantly. Buffy needs to rely on her friends constantly. Buffy is merely a part of a team rather than a girl boss. And again, this wasn't produced by feminism. Buffy was a product of a very, very different time, as shown by most of the promotional material. And I love the third example, Arya Stark. There is the modern female character. There is the antipathy, the exact opposite, the anathema of Buffy. Arya Stark is a character that masters everything, that defeats everybody, that defeats the faceless men, defeats kings and lords, and crushes the greatest threat against humanity all in a weekend it comes across. Her only hardship is the exact same that all of the other characters went through, although one could even argue to an even lesser degree, as she's immediately placed under the protection of other characters. Characters that she then immediately grows up from, and outperforms. Arya Stark saves the world through an action of purest Deus Ex plot machina nonsense that, in an instant, wipes out the entire threat. This is not just an issue, and it's clear that we don't even understand the issue. The people in charge don't know what the problem is. To this is simply another issue of focus groups that can be solved via top-down control by enforcing responsibility on the people who fucking created the problem in the first place. But hey, on the bright side, at least somebody's finally noticing. Oh god. The nightmare scenario out of all of this, I swear to Jesus, is that after all these years of explaining, of pointing out, of pontificating on and elaborating on the problem, we will end up in a situation where social justice organizations will somehow become the defenders of men this time around. The fucking balls on these griftings, piece of shit. And listen, at least on the bright side of things, at least the problem is being talked about now by groups and organizations within the mainstream. Sure, they haven't got the faintest fucking clue what they're talking about, but I have a sneaking suspicion that the feminists felt much the same 30 years ago, so... good. Yes, good. Beggars cannot be choosers, can they? So, let me know what you think about it in the comment section down below. I'd like to hear everybody's thoughts on this, and I hope to see you all again soon. Have a good day.